Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our first expert panel discussion for Realise Cloud on the topic of exploiting the cloud advantage. But before we start, I need to know what you think about a crucial issue. Our first polling question for today: is your cloud strategy more weighted towards which of these three? Innovation. Are you looking at new capabilities, app modernisation, etc.? Efficiency. Are you looking for flexible spending, reduced operational complexity? Or risk, mitigating enterprise, technology risks and the like? Which of those three is where you're focusing your cloud interest at the moment? Now, you can click the Live Now button to the left of your screen to answer our poll. I'd love to know your thoughts. We'll get back to that answer soon. It's also where you ask questions of our superstar panel. Please send those questions through as the session progresses. And let's meet our panel now. We've already met Mr. Piano Man himself, Chris Smith from Telstra Purple, and alongside him, a man you'll be hearing a bit from today, Adam Etherington from Omdia. And coming to us from the 5G Innovation Centre on the Gold Coast, Mark Ledgerwood from Telstra, and Anna Leibel. Now, she's the co-author of The Secure Board and director of a boutique advisory firm by the same name. Anna joined forces with Claire Pales to write The Secure Board to share the 5 elements that non-executive directors gain confidence in overseeing cybersecurity. Anna and Claire met as employees of Telstra at a speed networking event, so it was only fitting that Telstra's previous CEO, David Thodey, wrote the foreword for this book. Now, the outcomes we're hoping you gain from this session: 1, hopefully you'll better understand cloud potential, see those who are nailing it and get to know where to next for you. Secondly, learn how to better manage, optimise and secure your cloud. Thirdly, realise the potential of Telstra Purple to accelerate your cloud transformation. Let me start with you, Adam. What does the research tell us when we ask why do decision makers want to move to cloud?
Thank you. So, Telstra commissioned Omdia to do a study across Australian organisations, so 200 in all, and we looked at medium and large enterprises, including government, and across a range of sectors. Now, this is really important because there's a lot of hype and we hear a lot about cloud and the potential, but we wanted to really understand what's happening locally. And there are 3 things that came out of the study in terms of what businesses want, what governments want from cloud. And this is crucial, I think, to starting the discussion. So the first thing is they're looking for direct contribution to innovation. So speed to market is a good example there. The second thing is they're looking for a way to improve customer experience. So these 2 things are non-financial, obviously, and the third is cost and financial flexibility. Now, what's important is, and I spoke to a lot of CIOs, it's actually not all about cost. Right, there's a lot of pressure coming from the board and others around this agility and flexibility and innovation at the same time. And so they've got CIOs in this difficult position where they've got to definitely weave these business cases. But if it's predicated just on cost, it's going to miss the mark.
Okay, well, let's test that. Anna, in your experience, what do you put in a business case in this space? How challenging is it to get board approval in this area?
Well, firstly, hello from Melbourne. It's not very smooth, but we are safe. So in my experience, I don't talk to the board about innovation. I know that's a bit controversial, but from a board perspective, they've got 3 things that they're wanting to hear from any executive. They want to hear about risk, they want to hear about solvency, so financials, and they want to hear about culture. And so often, unless innovation is actually part of your company's strategy, innovation can come across as not tangible, and it does sound optional. And so in my experience, sometimes the board directors are not supportive of a strategy that's actually built around innovation unless it really matters to the organisation. But in so many instances, there are so many other risks that need to be addressed or regulatory compliance requirements that need to be met that often I go with that tact and then come back later on and really let them know about the benefits of moving to cloud in this instance. The thing that they'll also look for, and it's back to that risk piece and more around compliance, is how are you actually changing your procurement processes and your vendor contracts? Because as you broaden out your ecosystem, every single person you partner with becomes very, very critical to your business.
It's interesting, Chris, there are some tremendous benefits. There's also a bit of hype around there. There's some knowledge, there's some misunderstanding. What benefits do customers actually realise on this journey?
Well, it's interesting to hear the 2 different viewpoints, right? Agility and flexibility are 2 really important benefits you can get out of it, and Adam's research shows that. But equally, pitching, based on solely that doesn't get you there. But it is what the executives need, They need that platform for growth. They need scalability and a simplified IT platform, and then the ability to actually drive growth into their business, because that's actually what executive teams need to do for their shareholders.
It's interesting, Adam. I get the impression most organisations and boards are not prepared yet to be on this, fully on this journey. What are the key sort of challenges people are facing in this space?
Yeah, so we did ask a question around how prepared are you to move to the cloud and realise these advantages? And that was a really important question that we wanted in the study to get a sense of what's happening locally. And so I'm going to not hopefully rain on the parade, but I want to put it to the panellists here that we talk a lot about how we might pitch things to the executive and to the board, and we talk about the innovation around cloud. But the reality is that I'm hearing organisations aren't ready for the journey. So a couple of key stats that came out I want to highlight. Firstly is that when we asked how well prepared are you, only 32% of organisations said they're well prepared for the move to cloud.
That's what, the 1 in 3, 32%. Wow.
So the majority are not well prepared. They're either somewhat prepared or not prepared at all. Now, we tried to unpack that and go a little deeper, and it looks like there's two areas. So one is only 21% of organisations are prepared for cloud security challenges. Right, so cloud security is a big one. And ironically, only 34% of organisations are ready for to take advantage of innovation in the cloud. So the very thing that we're talking about, right, in terms of the benefit of cloud, is something that they're not ready to do. Now, we asked then, okay, well, what's holding you back? What are your biggest
What are the concerns? What are people worried about?
And the three are that they're worried about compliance, which Anna mentioned before.
Anna mentioned, yep.
Yeah, the second one was outage concerns. And the third was the network not being ready for cloud services. So it begs the question, are we ready?
Okay. Mark, let's look at your example, because how does this compare to what Telstra did? Telstra, I assume, is one of the biggest consumers of cloud in the entire country. What's the Telstra experience, Mark?
Telstra's journey has been like many, that Adam has just highlighted, that feel that aren't ready to move into cloud, but if they focus on the traditional standard types of IT strategies like security, networking, operations, service management, but you apply a self-service and automation lens, if you follow these simple processes, I think it will help organisations be ready for the cloud or understand what they don't know. But if you look at Telstra's specific experience, there were two compelling events which helped accelerate Telstra's move to public cloud. And the first one being the support of Andy Penn's T22 strategy for Telstra, their digitisation strategy. So simplifying our product stack in market, creating new digital channels and improving our customer experience. So it wasn't really about moving to public cloud or innovation, it was about solving a business problem and need. When the organisation went through and did the analysis around what made sense from its new digital stack, public cloud was by far the most appropriate way to solve this issue for several reasons. One being the developer ecosystem and market was heavily weighted towards public cloud, but also the ecosystem that has spawned up around public cloud. So the opportunity to build versus consume and to remove that undifferentiated heavy lifting and focus on building product differentiation in market. So the outcome for Telstra has been quite significant. And the simple fact is now when you're ordering mobile services in our Telstra stores, it used to take 11 applications and 48 minutes to complete that transaction. Now with the new digital stack, it's down to 1 application and 5 minutes. And this has all been achieved using public cloud today. The other compelling event for Telstra was complying with a regulatory and accounting requirement. The only way to technically achieve that was to use capability in automation in public cloud to support a new data warehousing capability, which has now led to Australia's largest financial data warehouse in public cloud. Learnings from Telstra as well is it's not just about being able to spin up infrastructure in seconds and minutes, it's about understanding the end-to-end journey. So we need to make sure it's not just about solving the infrastructure issues, which Chris has alluded to, but it's also about making sure from a security aspect and all the other associated services are actually brought in line, automated appropriately to give our customers the agility and services they need. And a great example of that was security firewalls used to take us 2 to 3 weeks to implement. Now it takes a matter of 20 minutes and can be self-consumed. So they're just some of the brief examples for Telstra's cloud journey and how successful it's been.
And what about your case, Anna? How did you get started on this journey?
So for me, I start with the strategy, and Mark's really just talked about that, and he did also talk about a strategy at Telstra that was built on business outcomes, not just the technology. And so I actually take exactly the same approach. So I developed an IT strategy at UniSuper. Part of that strategy was around addressing some risk within the IT systems, but also around meeting regulatory compliance and really preparing for the future for superannuation, which was, at the time I developed the strategy, we knew it was going to open for competition, which has now come to fruition. So I focused on all of those aspects. I built out that strategy, and that really helps me engage with the board. So the board's really clear on what the problem statement is, how I'm going to address it, and it's very methodical in the approach. The other thing it allows me to do is to make sure I've got, I suppose, a risk-adverse approach to moving workloads to the cloud. And the way that I dealt with that was I actually used some of the tools that we had within IT that were non-critical to the business and didn't touch our members. And we actually migrated those to the cloud first. We were able to learn a lot from that, sharpen up our processes. But the other piece for me is really thinking about the skills that you need in your team. And a massive challenge for a CIO at the moment is making sure, attracting talent, keeping skills current. And so for me, it was really helping me understand where I would lean on a vendor or a partner to actually help me deliver the work rather than trying to do everything in-house. And as Chris mentioned before, that digital skills gap, it's really hard to attract all of the talent. You can't find it in the market. So partnering for me was really key.
Yeah, and that's exactly the place that Telstra and Telstra Purple is trying to fill. You know, externalising, that incredible technology journey that Mark talked about, those capabilities, building them in platforms and making them available for our customers, and of course our amazing peeps, making them available for our customers as well. That's the role that we're trying to fill.
Well, Adam, let's drill down now into the current state of play for organisations in Australia. What does the research tell us, in particular on hybrid? A lot of people talk about it, a lot of people don't really understand it. Is there perceived to be much of a need for it?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on what Mark said there, and I think for many organisations that would be an aspirational view of where they like to be in terms of moving to public cloud that quickly. So when we look at the research that's come from local and then compare it to the global examples, it looks like the Australian organisations are much more reticent and reluctant in moving things to public cloud, particularly compared to the US and Europe. Now, the prime concern there is around commercially sensitive data in the cloud. And so the result of that is that hybrid is the dominant model at the moment. And so around 80% of organisations we asked have their critical workloads in hybrid cloud. So they're keeping it on-prem. Now, we asked them, well, why is this? So if you're virtualising it, you're keeping it within a data centre, why do you want it within these walls? And they tell me that they feel it's more secure, right? The security is still a big thing and they don't necessarily trust what will happen if it goes out to the cloud provider. The other thing they told me was to protect their data, so it's around privacy. And the third one, and perhaps most concerning, is they said migrating applications and workloads, particularly mission-critical ones, it's expensive, right? And there's a lot of risk involved and it takes a lot of time.
Mark, I'm going to ask you about Telstra's experience in just a couple of seconds, but we do have a second poll question on the topic of security. Hit us up right now and ask, what do you think about security? Are applications more secure on cloud than on-prem? It's a simple yes-no question. I'd love to know what you think. Is cloud more secure on-prem or not? Yes, no. But Mark, tell us about the Telstra experience with hybrid, etc.
So Telstra's experience with hybrid cloud, again, has been over a number of years. So we're looking at what capabilities we build in public cloud and how they can be leveraged across private cloud as well. And we're also looking at how we can combine the two, so where we can burst from private cloud into public cloud as well. And we're looking to build these capabilities and actually support Telstra Purple and building these products and capabilities to help Telstra Purple launch in market today. So leveraging the experiences we've had with supporting our own internal workloads, whether it be from private, public or a hybrid situation, we're bringing that skills and capability and supporting Chris in market.
Okay. I've got the people starting to vote now on the topic of whether they think applications are more secure on cloud than on-prem. It's split pretty close to 50-50,
Okay. Wow.
saying more secure on cloud than on-prem. Mark, what's your answer to that question? Is there a simple yes-no answer to that?
I don't think there is a simple yes-no answer, but my immediate response is public cloud is definitely not less secure. But if we look at the context of the question, public cloud providers invest a lot of money into their security because their industries, their products and services are based on being secure. So if there's an issue or If they are breached, all that revenue, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars worth of revenue, will vanish, and customers will lose confidence and not want to develop on public cloud. And from Telstra's own experience over the last 3 years, it helps us accelerate and focus on what we need to, partnering with the hyperscalers with the shared responsibility model and letting them focus on the core infrastructure, making the cloud secure itself. We focus on making our applications secure. But more importantly, over the last 3 years, we haven't had any issues with security breaches, whether it be in the public cloud infrastructure or with our applications.
Watching these votes come in, it's more exciting than a by-election in New South Wales at the moment. Swinging slightly, probably about 65% of people, 55-60% of people saying more secure on cloud than on-prem.
Okay.
Are you surprised by that
Yeah, look,
result?
I'm
What's the
pleased
research
that
tell you?
I'm pleased that there's an outcome because, as a researcher, if we can't decide, if we're not really sure, that concerns me, right? It's sort of either way. So I think if it's swinging more towards public cloud is seen as secure, it doesn't surprise me given what Mark mentioned, and the hyperscalers invest billions in their platforms, right? I mean, the foundation of trust is critical to their business model. But I think if I come back to an earlier stat where I mentioned only 21% of organisations are prepared to deal with security challenges in the cloud, I think some of the uncertainty might be what happens outside the cloud or in between my perimeter or my infrastructure and the public cloud provider.
I was hosting an event on the Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago for AusCert, the front line of cybersecurity in Australia. And the guy who kicked the event off explained the number of increased unauthorised disclosures of information, increased cyber attacks. And the phrase he used was, your cyber criminals pivoted as well as any industry during lockdown, during COVID. Is that a fair call?
Oh, absolutely, Adam. I mean, I think if we think about that comment I made in the keynote that, if you've got 100 people working from home, you've got 100 branch locations, you've literally put all of your workforce outside the perimeter security environment that we all built. So you've radically changed that, and that's as apparent to those that community as anyone else.
Security is a complex topic. We're only touching on a very high level here, but join me at 1:15. We've got a fascinating presentation, Securing Your Cloud Workloads, where we'll dive deep into the crucial question of security. Some questions have been coming through, and it's something I want to put to you, and it's tied back to our earlier poll question as well. I asked, which is the most important to you of innovation, efficiency, and risk? And we had about 25% innovation, low 40% for efficiency, 30% for risk. So innovation's about 1 in 4, but it comes third on that poll. And a really interesting with what you said about innovation not being a big part of the case to board, then where does innovation fit in if it's not part of the strict business case? Where does innovation fit into this picture, Anna?
Great question.
Yeah, really great results there. For me, it's really around that initial interaction with the board, which I do over a number of meetings. So at UniSuper, that took me 4 months to actually engage the board and educate them around the change that needed to be enabled. But I didn't talk about innovation because there were other business imperatives that needed to be addressed. What I do is I actually then commence the implementation of the strategy, and I actually go back to the board and continue to give them updates on the progress being made. And where we have been able to innovate, I actually treat that as the cream on top. So you actually look like a rock star because you've delivered on what you committed to the board, but you've actually done above and beyond that as well, which exceeds their expectations and also builds trust.
I see you nodding, Chris. Is that a sensible way to go around this very complex issue?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just the changes in the past 18 months, the work from everywhere piece, there's a lot of work we need to do to ensure the resiliency and ongoing nature of our business and in a secure way. So to Anna's point, if a board's looking at risk, solvency, those matters, it's about ensuring the business and then focus on innovation on top.
A couple of other things that are coming through, and something we're talking about later today, application performance. We've got a special session on that later today. What is application performance? How does it fit in here? What's the impact of that on productivity, cloud, and the like? It's going to be a really interesting session later today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, application performance, it's the spinning wheel. Sitting at home, we're all working at home. Adam's got the spinning wheel. We need to upgrade your network. It's productivity, where people are working from everywhere. Their applications have to perform. How do you do that over distributed networks, over these security environments?
And a reference here to legacy systems as well. Legacy systems versus on-prem versus in the cloud. Legacy systems, large organisations, are things that they really have to confront when they go on this journey, don't they? Tell us a bit about legacy systems.
Well, I mean, to Adam's point, there's actually 90% of workloads are not in the cloud. So if that means that they're not in the cloud, they're on-prem. And so you're accessing 90% of your systems on-premise. And the older the system, the harder it is to lift and shift to the cloud. So it's the boat anchor that needs to be addressed, but it's fundamental to getting there.
And sorry, something I want to add there is that conversations I've had is a lot of these applications, if we bring it back to the industry context, right? If you're a manufacturing firm, these applications were never designed for the cloud, right? They were designed pre-cloud. And so they're sitting on infrastructure, and it's not as simple as lifting and shifting these things, right? And so application performance, you can't afford to have any downtime with these systems. And so that's why I made the comment before that for some of these, it feels like a lot of organizations have gone for the low-hanging fruit. There are some applications and tools, and Anna mentioned some before, where if it's not customer-facing, right, you can sort of lift and move it, or you can refactor it, and the risk is minimized. But if you're talking about, okay, I'm producing bottles, or I'm producing something, and I've got applications that run that, I can't afford any downtime. The application performance has to be really, really tight. And I think that's another reason that the network is such a critical issue. And something else I want to touch on here is that I'm just writing this white paper for Telstra on the topic. And, some CIOs have told me, I asked them a question, what advice would you have to service providers? And they said more transparency around the importance of the network.
Wow.
Because there's this agnosticism that comes from the cloud providers that we can go with any network you want, right? But then no one mentions the importance of the network for the application performance and the security.
Excellent. We'll be drilling down into several of those topics throughout the day. So have a look at the agenda and join us as we go deep on these crucial issues around your cloud transformation. As we wrap this up, I'm going to ask each person on the panel, what's one big bit of advice in order to exploit the cloud advantage for our customers and viewers today from each of you? I'll start with you, Adam. What's your key piece of advice?
So I'm biased as a researcher. Having done the research here, I'd say have a good look at it. And I'm really hoping that what we've uncovered here, cutting through the hype, creates a platform, shared experiences that customers can learn from.
Mark, what's your key takeaway from the issues we've talked about so far?
Get your hands dirty, invest a little, experiment and learn a lot.
Anna, what would you say? What's your key takeaway from the issues we've trawled through over the last 25 minutes or so?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So I'm going to give you two if that's okay. So from a board perspective, really think about what the board needs to know to make a decision, not what you want to tell them. And I really loved all of the examples that the other Adam just shared around legacy systems. So for me, that all goes back to risk. And the second piece is really, I suppose, from a CIO perspective, and that is really think about your partner ecosystem, about how you can actually get things done.
Chris, as we're about to launch through the rest of Realise Cloud, what's your key takeaway from this opening panel discussion?
I think it's been a great discussion that's really highlighted that it's complicated, so it's about people and capability and partnerships. And of course, the best network. But I had to say that, right?
And we will be digging down deeper into all those across the rest of Realise Cloud. A couple of little bits of housekeeping as we wrap this up. On the topic of primary research, some of the qualitative interviews are just finalising, so the Telstra team will be sharing that report in early July. You'll also have coming your way the Essential Multi-Cloud Security Guide. And as I said, the live action is not over. You can join us for a series of round table discussions where you can dive even deeper with colleagues and experts into the latest cloud research and start pushing ideas into action. You see the prompt here. You have the option of joining in person at a Telstra Customer Insight Centre or online, so you can attend no matter where you might be. Look for the register for a round table icon on the left of your screen and sign up to join those round table discussions. So thank you very much, Adam and Chris, here in the studio. Thank you very much, Mark and Anna, at various locations around Australia. And a big plug for our closing keynote today, 4 p.m, David Rowan. This is the guy who founded the iconic Wired magazine in its UK edition. And he's released a book called Non-Bullshit Innovation. He's toured the world and seen the cutting edge of innovation. He's got some really interesting theories about whether innovation's a science or something that just bubbles up to the top, and how to harness innovation in your organisation in this time of digital disruption. That's David Rowan, our keynote at 4 p.m. this afternoon. We'll be back with more from Realise Cloud very soon. Join us throughout the day.